Hey guys, welcome back to the MVDBR Bat Cave. It's a Sunday arvo. We haven't done any riding this weekend, but the big T7 is in need of a little bit of preventive maintenance. The Cush Hub bearing, I believe, is getting a bit loose. To be honest, I don't really know. I've never had a bike with a Cush Hub in it before, long enough to need to do a bearing in it, but I don't imagine that it's going to be a very hard job at all. In fact, I'd probably, without having done it before, I'll preemptively give it a 1 MZ out of 5 for this job, so probably a half a beer job. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see how we go anyway. But the main reason that I'm thinking it's needing to be done is because, well, the guys on Ride ADV reckon that 15,000 Ks they start to get a bit of play in them. This old girl's got 16,000 Ks on her now, and I have noticed a little bit of wobble in the sprocket. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. There's just a tiny bit of movement there and a bit of a clunk, a bit of a grindy noise. So basically, I had a look on the Yamaha OEM parts website here in Australia. It's going to cost you about $137 for the 2 rear wheel seals and the 3 bearings. That includes the 2 wheel bearings and the Cush Hub bearings. So 137 bucks. That's, as far as I'm concerned, bend over and lube up, because Yamaha are taking you for a ride. Now, the second cheapest option is if you go onto something like MX Store or something and have a look at all balls bearings, you can get a complete set. That's the 2 seals and the 3 bearings for around about $82, I think it is. That's still up there, and I don't know what you guys think of all balls, but I'm not a fan. They are cheap. Apparently they're cheap Chinese bearings. I've had them in other bikes before in the wheels, and they just don't last. What I generally tend to do is go to your local bearing shop. Our local bearing shop here in Gympie, they pretty much stock Koyo bearings, which are Japanese. They're quality bearings. I picked up this whole bunch of shit here for 60 bucks. So that's 2 full sets of rear wheel bearings and 4 of each seal. So that's enough to do the rear wheel bearings 4 times. I've got enough bearings to do it twice for 60 bucks. And you know, quality as good, if not better than Yamaha OEM bearings, and definitely better than all balls. So yeah, that's the best option as far as I'm concerned. Go to your local bearing shop for 30 bucks or less. You can get quality. All right, so before we whip that wheel off, just want to quickly show you guys, I mean, how good is it? New rubber day. Got a brand new Golden Tire GT723 here. I'm not gonna chuck that on just yet, because I will tell you that the one that's on there still grips just fine. A few of you guys seem to be a bit skeptical about how long these 723s are going to last on the Tenere. I can tell you right now, this one here has just over 5,000 kilometers on it. It's down to probably 1/3 of the knobs in the center there, but it still grips like a champion. So I'm going to leave that on for at least probably another 1,000 Ks before I chuck the new one on. The front, if you want to come around and have a look here, this front's got about 6,000 Ks. I put it on a bit sooner than the rear. So that's how the front 723 is looking after 6,000 Ks. That's got a heap of life left in it yet. All right, we're going to go ahead and whip the rear wheel off and see how hard it is to get this Cush Hub bearing out. They do recommend that you remove the ABS sensor before you take the rear wheel off, but I never bother. So that's the back wheel off. As you can see, the Cush Hub rubbers in this wheel are still really good. They're quite tight still. No wear on that. Still quite tight to remove. So the rubbers are holding up really well. And take that spacer out, for starters. And there's our bearing. guys, so once you remove the outer spacer, obviously this is the seal here that we're going to be replacing, and that's the bearing. There's another spacer inside there apparently, so we'll just push that out. And keep that out of the dirt as well. So we'll pop that seal out and just see what's behind there. There might be a circlip or something holding that bearing in. So yeah, we'll have a look. So I'm just using a flat blade screwdriver. Twist it around. So I'll just wipe this excess grease off here. Just want to say a huge shout out to my camera girl Nat. It's quietly operating the camera there for us in the background. Doesn't look like there's anything holding that in there, does it? No. So we should be right to go ahead and bash that out. See how good the local bearing guys are. Looks pretty good. Beautiful. Now I know we've beaten the shit out of this bearing now, so it's rooted anyway, but we'll whip the seal off and have a quick look and see what's going on inside there. For anyone that's interested. Still plenty of grease in there. Might have lasted another 20,000 k's, you just don't know, but replacing it now, get it over with. Peace of mind. Alright, so I've just got the old bearing in the vise. We're going to grind it into half to make you know, something to knock the new bearing in with. The Yamaha OEM parts site doesn't list the specs and the part numbers for these, well, the bearing size numbers for these bearings, so I'll put this up on the screen for you guys. So if you take these numbers into your local bearing shop, they'll be able to hook you up with the right bits. Alright, so we've ground out the guts of the old bearings, so we'll be able to use this to drift the new one in. Put a little grease. Obviously, if you want to heat your hub up first, you can do that. Put your bearings in the freezer, all that bullshit. I'm just going to whack these in. Alright, so if you haven't done bearings before, you want to make sure you put it in straight. You don't want it on a, you know, getting on an angle, so you got to do it evenly. And plus, you never want to be hitting on this inner part. You will munt the bearing badly. So you only ever want to be hitting on this outside race. When you get it down flush, you grab the old bearing race and keep going. Having something exactly the same size as this outer part here ensures that you're not going to be hitting on that, you know. Do not do this with one that has not been cut. You will not get that out again. It'll change sound when it's hit the bottom, so it's pretty much there now. And that is one bearing installed. If you can fill any voids up where water may sit with something that's going to keep the water out, then it's a good idea to do so. So if this, you know, void's filled with grease, water won't sit in there. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, that's fine. Alright, so I was saying about the bearing guys, make sure you check their work, because they have supplied me with, I think they're about 10mm thick seals, whereas the ones I want are 7, so yeah, these aren't going to go in there, so I'm going to have to go to back to the bearing shop tomorrow and see if they've got some 7s. So can't finish this job today. Thanks guys. Righto guys, it is a couple of days later. I'm keen to get the bike back together. was actually going to have a bit of a bitch about the guys at Gympie Bearing Supplies for messing me around with these seals, but I better not, because A, they might be watching this now, because a random dude in the shop recognised me. G'day to you too, mate. And B, because they actually got me the right stuff eventually. So that's the 7mm seal. They managed to get me some 6.5s. He did say they could only get 8s, which I thought might be a little bit too thick, but these 6.5s, very little difference between that and the 7, so I think they will work fine. So thank you guys at Gympie Bearing Supplies, top bunch of blokes there. Now, to be honest, I wasn't actually going to do the wheel bearings on the Tenere yet, because there wasn't any play in the back wheel at all, only in that sprocket. So I think the back wheel bearings are actually pretty good still. But then I thought, while I was waiting for the Cush Hub seal, I thought I might as well just do the wheel bearings as well while I'm here. So I did whack those out. I didn't video it, I should have, but I didn't. It's pretty much the same as any dirt bike wheel bearings if you've done them before, with a couple of things to note. Alright, so firstly, the spacer in between the bearings, the long one that runs between the bearings inside the hub there, it does have a flange on one end. That flange is on the disc brake side, okay, so basically that means you want to bash out the bearing on the sprocket side first, because you'll be able to move that inner spacer to the side a little bit on the sprocket side. So just remember that sprocket side comes out first, then that spacer will pop out and you'll be able to do the brake side. And also when you putting the bearings in, the one on the sprocket side here, you can actually whack it in probably about ½ an inch further than what it's supposed to go in for some reason. I don't know why it's designed like that. Maybe something to do with the Cush Hub system or something. So yeah, if you do this one first, it's going to go in too far. So basically what I figured out is you need to do the brake side first. So when you're putting the bearings back in, do the brake side first. You can hit that one in as far as it'll go. It'll stop at that little lip. And then when you go to do, when you put your spacer in, you go to do the sprocket side, just gently tap that in until it touches the inner spacer. So yeah, nothing too hard there. Hopefully you know what I'm trying to say there, but basically, yeah, knock out the sprocket side first. Make sure you put the flange end of that spacer back to the disc side, and then yeah, make sure you put the disc side bearing in first, and you should be good. Right, so I'm going to put the new seal into the Cush Hub now. Pretty much picking up where we left off. So hopefully this seal is going to be okay. Alrighty, I'm not really sure how far in you're supposed to put those seals, but I imagine they're not supposed to be up against the bearing, so that seems to be happy to stop right there. Of course, you always grease these seals. Without greasing them, they don't last very long. I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on this inner spacer too, mostly just to prevent corrosion. Okay, now of course that went on the inside here. Beautiful. Should be right to refit the Cush Hub to the wheel now. And finally, the outer spacer. Okay, so this wheel is ready to fit back to the bike now. I just got to say, these spacers here are a real pain in the ass to me. They fall out whenever you're trying to put your wheel back on. They're going to be a lot better now that there's new seals on there. They'll be a fair bit tighter. I just don't know why Yamaha can't make captive spacers like the KTM bikes. On our KTMs, these spacers actually go inside the bearing, so it actually keeps them there. They can't fall out so easily when you're trying to put the wheel back on. But anyway, so it's going to be interesting to see if there is any play in this sprocket now that we've changed the bearings. So I don't know if there's meant to be a bit of wobble in it. I'm just kind of assuming that there wasn't. Alright, the big test. Certainly not making that creaky sound anymore. Doesn't seem to be any play in it either, so bloody ripper. So yeah, she should be good for another 15,000 k's at least. I'll be keeping an eye on the front wheel bearings. They do generally tend to last a bit longer than the rears, obviously. But yeah, that is that. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one. Right.
Nothing?
When you're putting your balls into a tight hole, you always got to use a bit of lube. The actual fuck's going on here?